All right, why are we looking at these three guitars? Well, we have in this hand, and man, that sunlight's really changing. I noticed this in the camera, and really dark on this side, and yeah, there's light blinding me over here. So, it's been probably a month since I've done a video, and the sun's shifted over here. Taking the light away from my room. I need to turn a little bit so you can see the guitars better, but I guess you can do it here. All right, back to this. What we got here is kind of a this one to this one, but then this one to this one. So the first one and the third one don't really compare, but the middle one compares to both of them. So the first guitar here is a Collings CW, which used to be called the Clarence White model, and then because of legal issues and stuff, then they had to rename it. So it's a CW. It's got a large sound hole, and this one is mahogany. Now, I owned one of the first ones, the original ones, the ones that John Holman put together. Mine was Brazilian rosewood, 1992 model, and it was called a Clarence White back then. I played that guitar for 7 years exclusively. It was my number one dreadnought. And then I got my Prue, and the Prue destroyed everything. Then I started getting back into dreadnoughts a little bit because that's what most customers want and everything. But anyway, long story short, this is a modern version of it, and I think this is a 22 model. It's pretty new. I thought it was brand new, but the customer said no, it's a 22. It's slightly used. Yeah. So it's got a large sound hole. It's mahogany back and sides. It's got a bound fingerboard. It's got a pretty slim neck on it with just a superb taper on it. It's a really, really good neck. Fantastic guitar. I've followed Collings guitars for a long time. Well, since 92, and even before then, about 89, I think, was some of the first ones. I remember doing a neck reset on like an 86 or something. So I have followed Collings for a long time, and there was a period when they were really, really good at the beginning, and then they all go through some changes. Martin does too, my gosh. Then there was a period about the 2000s and 2010 when they got really heavy. Then they got lighter again, and this one's light. This is a really good guitar. It still has the Collings punch and clarity and brightness to it, but it's a very, very good sounding guitar. I mean, it's open. My complaint about Collings has always been that they don't have the rhythm punch to it. It's what I call woof, and people have trouble understanding what I mean by woof. And woof is a percussive thing. Boom, boom. It's like that. You can hear it. You can hear it here. You can hear it when I'm doing the strum here, especially on the swing chords. That's what I did the swing chords for. You can hear this. Listen to the Martin. It's almost a dead note, but you use it for a percussive thing, and I hear it in the rhythm playing, and to the lead in a smaller extent when you hit the note. There's a push of air back in there, and that's the woof. Collings have never really had that woof very good, and especially my 92. One of my only disappointments on that guitar was that it never really had the rhythm sound. Plop, it never had that. It was just so clear. I didn't like it as well for rhythm. As a lead guitar, it was, it was fabulous. It was a fabulous guitar, don't get me wrong. I'm really nitpicking here. But when I got like my Prue OMD, that thing is the ultimate woofy thing. That thing is like a drum sometimes. All right, so, but I didn't feel that in this guitar. I thought this one, especially for being like a 2022, I mean, it's new. It's pretty new. Really, really good guitar. I like this a lot. I could definitely own one of these and play it, And of course, as far I have never found anything better than Collings in construction. I have they are the pinnacle for me in construction technique. And maybe that's partly why they don't quite have that woof, is because they're such lively, bright guitars, because they're tightly constructed, is what I mean by tight. They are such precision instruments that the notes just boom out of the thing, you know. And the binding is perfect on this thing. You never hear about binding problems on Collings guitars. Never, ever, ever. In fact, you rarely hear any problems with Collings guitar. They are fantastic in the construction. They are, to me, again, the absolute pinnacle of construction. All right, so this one's a red spruce top, mahogany back and sides. It's, I believe, is going to be a 23/32 inch neck rather than a 1 3/4. But it has that. That's perfect for me. I really, really like slim 1 3/4 necks. Let's put it that way, 23/32, and it's just a perfect neck for me. I'm not sure what the bridge spacing is, but it's something wider than 2 1/8. It's 3/16 or 1/8 or something like that. But I know it's a little bit wider. It doesn't really matter. All I know is that it feels like it's just a little bit wider. I don't have any kind of cramped aspect on this guitar like I would on a stock Martin with a 2 1/8 and 11/16 neck. No, this is an absolute fantastic neck. Absolute fantastic feel. The pins are seated nicely, and everything, the nut spacing is perfect, and everything is just perfect about the construction of this guitar. All right, when I was playing it, when I would come back to it after, because I did a live A-B, I played this one, I played that one, I played that one, then I switched, and then I played. So I got a chance to A-B them 6 times, 5 times, whatever. This has a really bright mid-range, and I noticed it right away when I was doing the swing chords. Maybe it's that E note. That E note is a little bit. Yeah, that E note is a little bit almost a wolf tone. Every guitar has got a note somewhere on it that's going to be a little bit snappier than the other one. But when I did that swing chord, I noticed that note right away. And normally it's the A string, 7th fret, which is an E note. Almost. Very often on an acoustic guitar, the 7th fret, A string. Has a kind of a funny tone to it. And that's just the way it is. It's got to be some note or another. It's not as noticeable back here because I think the string is longer. So it has more sustain to it. It kind of evens it out. But if you compare the tone of that... There's a little something on the note. I noticed it immediately when I did that chord. See, I don't hear it there. Even on the B string, I don't hear it. You can hear it coming out. Of course, once you focus on it, that's it. That's all you'll ever hear on this guitar. And please don't ask me to change that because it's not going to happen. Just play the guitar, keep going. If you did want to change it, I would start first of all by experimenting with pins. Try some different pins and see if you like those better. These are probably ebony, and the first thing I would do is maybe try an antique acoustic or something in them to see if you change that. But it's just one of those things where you just notice it, and then you're hung up on it forever. And if you don't notice it, you'll probably never hang up on it. So. But I did notice it when I did that. Now, when I did the cross picking thing, that's not as warm as the two Martins. And that's a typical Collings thing where it's so articulate that it's not quite as warm. And I'm not criticizing again. I'm just commenting. And I felt like the strengths on this guitar were definitely lead notes like that. Single notes, leads. And I'll play it a little bit later. I hope I don't lose my sound this hard. It's really getting dark. I'll play it a little bit later and see what you think. But, wow, the Collings, it was really good. I liked it. Now, when I pick up the Martin, this Martin is a Outlaw 17. It's a custom shop model offered for 1 year. I think they were going to plan on making 100 of them. And I'm not sure they ever did make 100 of them because nobody knew what the heck it was. and it is not a popular guitar. I only found out about it because of this guitar, which is a custom shop Bluegrass-16. 16 stands for 2016. 17 on this one stands for 2017. So the reason for these two guitars is because they are like brothers and sisters or cousins. They're highly related guitars. This is the mahogany version, and that's kind of like the Guatemalan rosewood version. There's some differences in them, but they both have the same DNA, meaning that they're custom shop models that don't really resemble anything else in the Martin lineup. And so I heard about this because of that guitar, and someone said, have you looked at the Outlaw 17? I go, well, I've never heard of the thing. And then maybe a month later, customer in Albuquerque says, hey, I've got an Outlaw 17. Do you have time for it? And I'm like, yeah, I got time for it because I wanted to see it. And what was happening to this guitar, oh, yeah, the Collings is the only reason it's here. It just needed a setup. Collings are a really good setup, but this particular one had a way high, the low side was really high and had a big taper down to the treble, and I like it more even, and I know my customer likes it more even because I've worked on lots of guitars for him. So I said, yeah, I'd send that along. I want to see a new CW. Yeah, send that. It's just a setup, I'm done with it. All right. So this one, the Custom Outlaw 17. It's a mahogany guitar, but if you look at it from the front, it looks like a D28. It's got ebony appointments to it. It's got herringbone binding on it. Now, the binding was the problem. There were a lot of binding was loose on this guitar. And oddly enough, normally bindings come loose at the waist here because the plastic shrinks and it pulls away. But interestingly enough, this one was loose out here on the big rim. So it was loose on this side. And gosh, I repaired a lot of places on it. I repaired it right here, 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 here. There was a lot of loose binding. And somebody else had repaired it one time because I could see their glue marks. And I could see where they didn't quite get that binding pushed in perfectly right here. So I kind of had to do what I could do out there. But that was the issue. It had quite a bit of loose binding. And none of it was falling off. It was just, it was loose. So I got that all fixed up. Fortunately, the stuff on the top went back really, really good. And I think you'd have trouble finding it. You could probably feel it there just a little bit. But anyway, red spruce top, mahogany back and sides, herringbone, hide glue construction. It's got the tall back braces, which new Martins do have, which I wish they would have put low back braces in there. But they never do. It's got a popsicle brace. Yeah, it's got a popsicle brace. It's got forward X scallop bracing, which is cool. Really gorgeous red spruce top. So what you have here is some sort of hybrid between, it's not really even that, yeah, it is kind of a hybrid. It's a D18 with D28 appointments. Because the ebony bridge, the herringbone, white binding. It does not have white binding on the neck though. But the ebony fingerboard and all that stuff. So it's an 18 with 28 leanings. They could have called it a 19, but it became, no, they can't, because the 19 is a shaded top. And a D21 is like a D28 with 18 leanings. And this is the 18 with 28 leanings. Anyway, it's great. It's a 1 3/4 inch neck. I measured that. It's the MLO neck. It might be an MLO vintage or something. I don't know. But it's almost identical to that Collings in feel. It's a really great taper from up here to up here. The thickness is the same. Super, super comfortable neck for me. Kind of a really rounded, slight V to it. Nothing major on the V. A lot of people might think it's too slim, but I really like the way it plays up the neck. Super easy. What I noticed immediately when coming to this guitar was how warm it was compared to the Collings. And so when I did the string chords, it was rich, It doesn't have the mid-range or the sparkle. It does not have the high-end sparkle that Collings does, but it's a really warm, rich sound. and I don't hear the E doing that thing. It's in the chord. That E sounds great. But you can hear the difference in tone. Boom, you know, and that's typical again. I thought this guitar possibly my favorite of the three because it's so well balanced. It's warm, it's full, but it's got lots of treble bite, plenty of treble, no issues going on there. Really good guitar. I would love to have one of these just because it would make a great companion to this Bluegrass-16. But the thing is, I don't think I'd ever play it. I've got too many guitars to play. I am halfway tempted to trade my D2841 authentic foot. That would be a good trade to me. Because to me, the Outlaw 17 has a better neck, a more comfortable neck to me. It's got a nice warm sound. I would probably make that trade. So that then I would have a really good mahogany guitar. I would have a really good rosewood guitar. The rosewood guitar that we used in this comparison was a BG-16, Bluegrass-16 custom shop. And once again, it's a custom shop thing. The thing is, I like this guitar better than the 41 D28, the D28 41A. Even though when it comes on video, and even though in person, that 41A is the better sounding guitar. This one is more comfortable for me to play because it has a bigger neck. I have zero complaints about the neck, and I'm always complaining about how skinny the 41A neck is. I had a museum edition 41, and the museum edition had a thicker neck. I measured them both, and the museum was thicker, and I almost traded the 41 for the museum, but the 41 is valuable to me as a comparison guitar. But I'm getting tired of doing comparisons like that. So, you know, it's one of those things. If I was going to get rid of it, if I was going to let it go, I would trade it for an Outlaw 17. I would. Because this too, the Outlaw and the BG-16 would make a really, really, really good pair. A matched pair with similar necks. Now, this neck feels a little bit bigger in the hand, probably because of the binding. Binding always makes the neck seem a little bit bigger to me. But as far as the taper goes, same thing. I pick it up and it feels the same. What I noticed about this guitar, this is heavy. This guitar weighs a lot more than the Outlaw set, more than any of these. And I picked this one up and it's heavy. And it's heavier than the 41A. The 41 is Madagascar rosewood. This is Guatemalan rosewood. And this is a heavy guitar. All right, construction-wise, this one's hide glue, VTS top, red spruce top, ebony. I cut a long saddle because it comes with a short saddle. There was a previous owner of this guitar, and then he actually ended up offering it to me for an extremely good price because he knew how much I raved about this guitar. And when I first reviewed this, it was like I said, this is the best new Martin guitar for me that there is. This is my favorite new Martin guitar, because even more than like a 37 D18 authentic. Because this has more modern things to it. I appreciate something like the 37 D18, but I don't have one, and I have this one. I like rosewood. I like large sound holes. Anyway, I cut a long saddle on this. I shaved the tall back braces down. I took the popsicle brace out. I put antique acoustic bridge pins in this. I did, and I changed the pickguard. It should have a Dalmatian pickguard, like the Collings. And I can't stand the Dalmatian look, so we put this dark one on there. This is one of Taylor Mullins's pickguards. Holter pickguards, really, really good. I love these pickguards. So this to me, this is my favorite D28. And I would rather have this one than the 41A, but the 41A is good in comparisons and stuff. This one's a forward X, fully scalloped. I I normally like rear X better because I like the punchier sound, but the large sound hole mitigates that a little bit and gives it a little bit more brightness that a 37 D28 would not have. Those would be more boomy, but this large sound hole here gives it more of the mid-range and brightness that I like. I like a bright, snappy sound. So, when I pick this guitar up, the first thing I notice every single time is how warm and deep it is, you know. Boy, this is bass. This is a D28, boys and girls. But it has really good top end. It's not like the Collings. It's not sparkly and bright. Not as much high end as the Collings. Nothing has as much high end as the Collings, really. It's good high end, but the bass, man. Wow, you know, this is a D28. There's no mistake in that. So, those are the things I notice. It's heavy. I pick it up. It's a D28. And it's fabulous neck on it. I'm really super comfortable with this guitar. And I'm very comfortable with, I'm comfortable with all of them. But I really feel like the Outlaw 17, oh yeah, that's so much lighter than that one. This one's light. Now let's say compare this one to say a D18 Golden Era, which I've had lots of. The neck is much slimmer. I think the sound is brighter and punchier. Just a little bit, maybe, you know? Just a little. D18 Golden Eras are really, really good guitars. And back in the day when you could buy them for $1,800 or so, they were the best bang for the buck going. They still might be. I prefer this one just a little bit more because I like the neck on this is really good. I love GE necks. But this one is a better lead flat picking neck for me because of the slim, consistent feel. And I like the herringbone. I like the trim. I like the fact that it looks like a D28, but it's actually an 18. You know, I like the attitude of the Outlaw thing. So I like this, but I feel this should be like a little bit of a souped up D18 Golden Era. And the whole reason I got this custom shop BG is because I had worked on an HD28 LSV, and I've worked on lots of them for the owner. And I said, gosh, I love these LSVs. I would really like to hear one in a hot rosewood, you know, Madagascar rosewood, Guatemala. And I know they make some Brazilian LSVs. And then before I knew it, this guitar turned up, and that's basically what it is an HD28 LSV, only better, hot rodded. High glue construction, fully scalloped braces. The HD28 LSV, none of the HTs have the fully scalloped braces. They stop about 1.5 inches short of the X. And I generally open them up, make them like a GE. This comes with the right bracing. So that really was a souped up LSV, which is something I wanted to hear. This is kind of like a souped up Golden Era GE18. And really good guitar. I like this guitar a lot. So that's why we have those three guitars, because we got to compare Collings mahogany versus a Martin mahogany, you know, top of the line, you know, the pinnacle of their production. And they're both modern takes. So it's not a D18 1939 or 37 authentic would be a top of the line Martin, but it's a traditional sort of thing. Whereas the Outlaw 17 is into the modern camp, and the Collings is definitely in the modern camp because they're not trying to recreate a vintage Martin. They're trying to nod at the vintage Martin and bring their own modern Collings stuff in here, which they did a fantastic job of. So that's why I said these are probably the pinnacle of the modern mahogany guitars in the Collings line and the Martin line. And then the reason you got to look at the Outlaw versus the BG is because they're brothers and sisters in the custom shop. They both have, they're both cut from the same mold. The BG-16 is a hot rodded something or another, and the Outlaw 17 is kind of like a hot rodded mahogany. The necks are similar. The necks are the same neck, but the binding and everything. And so that makes them together, you know, they're in the same mindset, as opposed to if it was a 37 authentic or a 39 authentic. That's a different mindset. that's making it into the traditional genre, that sort of thing. And this, this is a modern take on it. So that's why we compared them. Plus, there's just three really great guitars that we had an opportunity to sit down here and play, and what's wrong with that? Bye.